Hey guys, welcome back or welcome to the channel. If you know, it's Sahara. My outfit today is one of these types of tops that go down in like one of those cowl necks, but I was like, it would look cute if it was like off the shoulder. I don't know, it looks spicy. I think we just came into spring and it is so hot, so of course you want to put out these colorful looks now. I'm glad to get back to these colorful looks, not glad to deal with this heat or these bugs and bees. I got stung one time, which I may get into a story time on that, but we're just gonna get started. So off camera, I already did my brows. I cleaned up, I primed the eyelids as well as creasing a little bit, so I'll fix that. But I used a concealer, and then with the concealer, I mixed in a NYX Jumbo Pencil and Milk to get like that white base. And it kind of disappeared, so I think I might add a little bit more. And I'm all out of this white base, and I think you can sharpen this, but I don't feel like sharpening it. Instead, I'm going to use the LA Girl Pro Primer. I want these shades to be really vibrant on the eyes. So one stung me on the back of my leg, and I was like in shock. At first, I screamed, and then I cried, and then I laughed. I'm telling you guys, that little creature took me through the emotions. I was like in so much pain. It was absolutely ridiculous. And for me, for some reason, whenever I'm in pain, I start laughing. I don't know if that's to cure the hurt. But yeah, it stung me on the back of my leg, and my leg was swollen and bruised for days. And it's hot outside, so of course I'm not wearing long pants, so I'm wearing shorts. So I'm at the store with a huge bruise on the back of my leg. I mean, it was huge. I did take a picture of it, but I think I deleted it by now. Like, I delete everything else. And this is in the shade Parade. I think the best way to just work with certain eyeshadows, that one is called Art, is just to have the right brush to use, because sometimes you get the wrong brushes and then it's not blending out right. Like this one, I feel like it's a little too big. Alright, so I'm just making sure that these shades are blended together really nicely, and then I'm going to go back in with the other brush. Sometimes I just feel like my eyeshadows are out to get me because they don't want to blend. But it's okay, we take our time. The key to blending out eyeshadows is to not move on until it's blended. You get frustrated, you move on. I'm gonna move on. My shirt is trying to do its own thing now. It's one off the side, one off that side. I'm gonna go into the Aftershock Bad Habit palette next and use a little bit of this darker blue called Plur. And we just apply that deeper into the crease. I'm gonna go back into the Morphe palette and use the shade right here. This is another matte called Truth, and it is a deep purple, and that's gonna go on the outer part of the eye. I love like really blown out looks, but I feel like my eye shape always wants to wing everything out because it just looks better. Whoops, just added that purple. Alright, so I'm just going back in with a little bit of that shade Plur just to blend in between the eyeshadows. Back into the Morphe, the Morphe 25L palette and use this shade right here called SF and put it right next to that purple. And these are all matte eyeshadows that I'm using on my eyes so far. I'm gonna go back in with some more of that purple and add it to the outer part so I don't lose that shade. And for my last shade on the lid, I'm gonna use Tingle and apply that brighter shade closer to the inner part of the eye. I'm just gonna go ahead and clean it up with a makeup remover wipe. I think I'm gonna end up applying one of these lashes from Ioni. I feel like this look is very exotic, so maybe the long spiky. I'm gonna try those, we'll see. These look so stupid right now, and the band is so thick. I don't like these. I think I'm gonna take them off. These are the long spidey ones. And look at this, trying to mess up my eye makeup too. In my other video, I said that the other lashes They were, oh my gosh, it feels like there's so much lash glue. They were like the lash band was thin, but this is thick. Should I even try these? Let me see, is the lash band thick on this one too? Brands have got to stop making these lash bands hard and thick because it's hard to keep it down on both sides. One side will go up. This lash band looks hard too. Maybe some other time. It seemed like it just took me like 10 minutes to get these lashes right, because once one pair of lashes was acting up on my eyes, then these didn't want to go on right. So with the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Primer, first of all, it smells so good. It smells like something sweet. Ooh, and it runs really fast. It's a very thin, extremely thin consistency. It does say that it is a hydrating water-based serum formulated with rose water and green tea extract, refines and nourishes as it preps and primes skin for extended makeup wear. So it's definitely water-based. As for like the rose water, it doesn't really smell like rose water. It smells more like a cucumber sweet mix of something. I'm gonna apply a little bit more. So I definitely feel like a product like this would be really good for hydrating any skin type. But if you have oily skin, you definitely not just gonna want to stop right here. You're gonna need to apply a matte primer, especially in your T-zone area where you get really oily at. Now that spring and summer is here, you better get this. And it feels like it's starting to get a little bit tacky, which is good. I already have the Wet n Wild foundation. This is the matte one, the old one. So I have this in a shade Toffee, which was too dark for me. When I went to Walmart, I seen that they finally had the shade range. Not all shades, of course, but enough, and one for me. So this is the one in Desert Beige, medium dark, and warm. So this is how this one looks. It's definitely lighter compared to the one I originally purchased, but this is the matte foundation and this is their new dewy one. I just want to make that clear because I'm like just talking like I just bought a correct shade in this foundation. No, this is the matte one and this is the dewy one. I should do a side-by-side comparison, but since I didn't have the right shade, there'd be no point. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply the dewy one, and we'll see how this works. So on one side I'm going to use the sponge, and on the other side I'm going to use this brush from Morphe. This is the M439 brush. On first application it looks a little light. It looks like it may match my neck, but we will see. Hey, if all else fails, I can always just mix both of the foundations together if they weren't my shade. So this is a lot more runny than the matte one. Alright, so I'm gonna blend this out on this side with the sponge first. Did the sponge just soak everything up? Blending it out with a sponge, it has very light coverage. Oh, I don't want to get it on my eyeshadow. Don't mess up the 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 eyeshadow. Please. Oh, good. And I almost forgot to mention that my sponge matches my Marc Jacobs Decadence bag. So I'm going to go ahead and just switch to the brush side on here. And I have some acne bumps around here. Definitely more coverage on the brush side. Is a little pink. Why is it pink? It says a medium dark warm. There's no way that this should have more of like the pink. Look at it compared to my neck. It looks more pink than gold or yellow. Wet n Wild, what are you doing? More coverage with the brush side. I'm gonna see if this can build. That's a better way to test out a foundation, to see how well it builds. So I'm just gonna build it up on a sponge side. Okay, so now it's looking a lot more dewier. I don't know how I'm feeling about this foundation. I definitely feel like if you want like a light natural coverage, this is the type of foundation for you. For me personally, I don't know. I feel like it's maybe the combination of using both the primer and the thing. It does build well. It's not getting cakey anywhere. I guess that's due to the fact that it is a dewy foundation, so it's easier to build it up. It won't like seem like it's sitting on top of the skin. Alright, so I think what I'm going to do is just like apply the rest of my face makeup, because right now I'm feeling a little bit iffy. Like, I don't want to sit here and say like, oh my god, this is an amazing foundation. Like, I feel like lately I've been finding some good foundations and this would not be on my top list. I'm going to go in with the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Concealer. And I almost forgot to mention that the smell of the dewy one does not have that paint smell like the matte one did, or the matte one does. I like the matte one better than this dewy one so far. Of course, I'm going to do a wear test. For cream contour, I'm going to go in with the Wet n Wild. Might as well use as many Wet n Wild products I have. I have their Wet n Wild eyeshadow palettes too, but I just wanted to do this eye look today. So I'm going to use the concealer. This is in the shade Dark Cocoa. As I apply stuff on my face, I'm still smelling that priming serum. And it smells so good, so it is kind of strong. It is lasting through this foundation. Most of the time when you apply products, it kind of like the scent will disappear, but I'm still smelling it. And it's not on my hand. And I'm going to use my Black Radiance powder. One thing that I do notice about this foundation is I like how powder sets on top of it. Do you guys see how, especially in the middle and under the eyes, it does not look drying at all. It still has a nice like luminosity to it. So I do really love that. Because I automatically still set my makeup with powder even though I'm more dry around in this area and a little bit more like oily on my nose. Just to make sure that the makeup lasts all day and it doesn't transfer. Went to the Dollar Tree again and found another hard candy product. So this is a blush and bronzer duo in the shade Matte Made Heaven 1227. So it also comes with this brush that's really soft, but it's really small. So I mean, no, it's not gonna happen. So I'm gonna start off with this bronzer that's probably not even gonna show up on me. Look how light it is. Something. I'm gonna use the blush up here next, and I'm like really scrubbing into both of these. It's not a bad product. For highlighter, I'm just gonna go into the Wet n Wild Precious Petals. Now that I finished the lower lash line, I'm gonna go back in with the Take Me to Brazil palette. We'll go in with that, period. And I'm going to use this this neon green right there. Okay, so then right under that, I'm going to go in with this shimmery green just to make it a little bit more shimmery. The first shimmer shade I'm using on the eyes today. First, I'm going to use the Joa Beauty mascara instead. I wasn't really feeling that yellowish green look going on in the inner corner, so I decided to go in with this Milani palette, just digging through my collection right quick. And this is the Bare Necessities, and I've always loved this shimmery shade right here because it's like a white gold. And I put it in the inner corner, and my eyes tearing up a little bit, so it made it look a little bit more metallic, but it still has that yellowish green tone to it. I think I'm just gonna go in with a gloss and use the nude one from the Frozen 2 palette. This is a Frozen 2 palette, the Anna collection, and this is Free Spirit. I'm listening to More Than a Woman by Aaliyah, that's why it's up, but it's now 2:06. So I'm gonna have this on for a couple of hours like I always do when it comes to foundation, so we could do this wear test review. So this is how it looks so far. I think it still looks really good, besides, oh my gosh, my ear is so red. Besides the fact that it's not my correct shade undertone. I think it would be a perfect match if it was the right undertone. But besides that, it still looks really good. It does not look dry. And another thing I noticed before I hop off this camera and then come back on later is to really get your makeup to last throughout the day. Don't spray your face with setting spray. leave that powdery type of look and it will last much longer throughout the day. That's what I noticed. I had tested that one time. I was like, let me just leave all this powder on my face, and I was like, it actually lasts through the day and I didn't have any separation or anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and, you know, leave you guys to this, and then I will be back later to check in. And here is how the makeup looks up close. And here's how the makeup looks far away. You know, I couldn't leave off of this camera without getting a few poses in. So before I even get started on ending this review on this foundation, I do want to mention the highlighter that I put in the inner corner was irritating my eyes because it got hard when my eyes got watery, and I scratched it down, so that's why the green ran down here. So do not mind the eyeshadow, but besides that, the eyeshadow still looks good. It did not fade. Almost forgot to mention that it is 8:12 now, so I've had this foundation on for about 6 hours now. Maybe a little over 6 hours, because I think that I finished at 2:06. I know I finished ahead of time, but when my camera had died. As for the foundation, I think it still looks really, really good around here. As you guys can see, my nose got really oily. If I go to blot or, you know, apply some powder, then it'll be fine, you know, brand new. Nothing separated, nothing really creased. If anything did crease, it would have just been around here where I get that natural creasing. But even around here where I'm really oily at right now, it still didn't separate, so that's excellent as well. I do like this foundation. I know when I first applied it, I was like, I don't really know about it because I just look so like oily and greasy. Like I just didn't know how I feel about it. And then like when I was blending it out with the brush and the sponge, I just felt like too much of the foundation was disappearing, and it's already a very light coverage foundation anyway. Light to medium, but it is very buildable, which is really good. So I do like this foundation. I would not recommend it for oily skin. Primer, the moisturizer. Is this a moisturizer? As for the primer serum hydrating one right here, I recommend this for any skin type, anyone who really wants that hydrating, cooling primer. Like I said, for oily skin types, I need to stop messing with this because if you can hear it, it's just me closing it. But if you have oily skin, like I said about that primer, you're definitely going to want another primer, like the something that can keep you matte in the center, which is what I need, obviously, evidently. It just feels like you're applying water on your face, but you're actually applying, you know, some type of skincare that's going to help you. So all in all, I do like it. I recommend it. I hope you guys enjoy. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!